and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Monday. Welcome to the markets on Monday. Kind of not a lot going on, and usually I get the war, right? I get the crazy tweet, something like that, but not a lot going on. So again, if you're new here, I'm Michael Nauss. I'm a chartered market technician from StatsEdgeTrading.com, and what we do is we're essentially systems traders. So we build, backtest, run a lot of data, build a lot of models, and we do whatever those models say, which gives me a lot of time to start taking a look at different setups from you guys. So make sure you are asking in wherever chat you are, and that will get piped over to me for whatever it is that you're looking to get a hold of. But until then, let's actually just start by going through some stuff here, seeing what's happening in the overall market. So new all-time highs again, which is great. Obviously, exactly what we want to see. Wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of rest come down, because we're looking at just higher lows on daily charts. It's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 higher lows in a row. So at some point we need a little bit of a rest, and it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a dramatic pullback. It could be a consolidation through time. I just put out a little stock quits thing for this FTEK thing that I'm in. That's the same kind of thing, right? This had a big move up, consolidated to burn off that overbought condition, moved up a bit more, consolidated, moved up a bit more, and now consolidating. So quite often, and you know that's the bullish scenario, is that you get these moves and then this consolidation after these moves over and over again. One thing that's not participating that we got to keep an eye on is Bitcoin, right? Down a little bit today, bouncing a bit, but you know, stuck inside this downtrend channel, this wedge, whatever you want to call it, and just can't get moving either direction. So it's kind of chopping around this range. We need a consolidation here, and then a breakout from there into hopefully all-time highs. But if you look at the whole space, Ethereum, nothing, Solana, nothing. Right, a lot of these names aren't doing anything. A little bit of Solana there. Just recently. So we need to have something happen, I think, in the crypto space in order to kind of propel us here, right? Because this right now is low grind. Tried to pull in a little bit today, and then buyers step back in. But so far, it's we broke high and we're grinding higher. Now that doesn't overly surprise me. Go in. This is one of my favorite data points. Bring this up to you guys. This is commitment of traders data. So essentially, this long story short, you have to declare if you're speculating in the futures market, whether you're a large speculator, a small speculator, and then the futures broker that you trade with reports every week net long, net short type positions. So this report comes out every weekend and says, okay, who's long, who's short, and let's net those out. Knowing that commercials, for example, usually know what's going on. So commercials are your they're basically the guys in the know. So they're using futures to hedge something. They have think of it like, you know, a baker, right? A baker would have, or a farmer, I guess would be better, would have a pretty good understanding of potential price fluctuations in the crop that farmer's growing. That would be a commercial. And then a speculator is someone who just takes the other side. So if he's selling you futures and the speculator's buying, then it would show that commercial short, and that speculators are long. Generally speaking, we want to go with the guys who know what's up, which is speculators, and we want to stay away from the people, or we know what's up, which are the commercials, and we want to trade against the speculators, particularly the large, but also sometimes the small speculators. Now, just looking at this data right here, these institutional or speculator traders are still short. They're 3% net short. We go to this chart here. You can see they started to short right here through here at these lows. They never covered. Continued to short on the way up. That to me could cause this slow march, this slow grind higher, because it's just saying, hey, big guys have to cover. So the fact that they're all at all-time highs and they have to cover just shows us that, you know, that's the best, right? So I see that there. Thanks. They have to cover, right? They absolutely have to. Just like us, you will get blown out. The broker will come and grab your stock and make you cover. If not, so you can have short squeezes in individual stocks, which everyone knows after the whole GameStop event, and you can have short squeezes in the overall market. And I think that's what's happening and could propel us higher. So again, as I finish up my app, make sure you guys are posting whatever charts you want me to look at. Let me know. Let me take a look. Just a couple things I want to show everyone first, and then let me know what you guys want to look at there. It's your time. Just looking at the heat map, you can see pretty green across the bank side of things. Sort of stress test thing. That passed is good. So great. Now banks are not going to explode anytime soon. So that's a positive for the market. And then the technology, we have a lot of mix, but we've got some really big names with things like Oracle up pretty huge. Making new all-time highs. We have Oracle. We have Talent here that was gapping down on Friday, or not gap down, crash on Friday due to some rebalancing shenanigans. Gapped up today. So anyone bought it on Friday is really well as this thing will potentially grind here highs. AVGO is another one, but yeah, good looking names here overall. So really strong day. What else do you want today like this? They like this kind of nice strong price action. I use Palantir as a good name. Speculative. We have a nice push up there on Palantir as names. I think even Hims. Yeah, holding on today. Speculative name that just got beat up. Quantum's name. UBT. Right, a lot of these quantum names are holding up as well. Again, it's good to look at it. It's good to know these themes, even if you're not ever planning on trading or investing in these names. It's good to know a lot of these themes so that you can end up taking a trade from that. So again, I see one request, so make sure you're adding them as they come. BBAI. You can see a little line here. So again, I talked about how I'm a trader. I'm an algo guy. If we were to pull back here today, I bought that. He just ripping. Massive continuation. This also feels like a bit of a short play. Let me go over here. Finviz. Let me go to BBAI. And I just want to look at the short interest on this. 27% short. So yeah, a lot. This one's heavily shorted. So I couldn't in good conscience buy it up here as it's doubled from just this low it had a couple days ago. However, I would not short it up here just because it is very, very heavily shorted. So just like we talked about the potential short squeeze on the overall market, you got to look at the potential short squeezes on individual names. If 2/3, or what I say, 27%, so yeah, quarter, let's say, of the float is short, and this thing's ripping, not quite to all-time highs, but if we got anywhere close to this $9, that's near all-time highs. If that is ripping, those shorts are in trouble, right? Those shorts are something that you could have to potentially worry about and make sure that you are, again, you don't want to get on the other side of a short squeeze. Now, when they're over, right? Like look at GME, this was the short squeeze, and then it's just been over ever since then, right? AMC had this crazy short squeeze, and now it's, on the door of bankruptcy. So eventually they down. You just don't have a brave guy to step in their way, because we know they much higher before they move lower at all. So again, solid push up here. Nothing to do for me. Nothing that I'd really buy, but I'm certainly not going to short it as well. So MBIS. This is a nice chart. Just because we have this nice consolidation. So we've talked about this before. This is how you want different stocks to. This is how you want stocks to look like. How stocks you want to hear.
how you want stocks to work. You don't want like the BBAI eventually is going to be problematic if it keeps ripping like this. ASTS is another recent example in which you had a massive push up, and then a sideways consolidation, and now it looks like it's pulling back a bit. This is healthy market. When it's going up every single day like this, that's not healthy. You want chill out. You want sideways consolidation because when you're overbought, you have to deal with that somehow. Doesn't mean you have to go down. Doesn't mean short the overbought thing and hope it goes lower. It means it has to chill. So when I look at MBIS, it's doing just that. A nice push up here, and then this sideways consolidation, this moving sideways for a potential break. Highs all the way up at $85, so it's got a long way to go, and really nothing that I can see here in its way too much if it can get over this kind of $55 a share from there. TTAN, Service Titan Inc. That's a cool name. Just range bound when I look at this. One thing you can do, I know Brian Shannon comes on Sunday nights, big fan. He's a good friend of mine, and he talks about this all the time. So we have the VWAP here going from the IPO date. So what does this line represent? It essentially just represents the average price of the average market participant since like the birth of the company. So if you were dollar cost averaging into TTAN, your price would be around 104.5, give or take. This becomes a very interesting line in the sand to trade against, because it just shows us that if we're above that, the average person, most people in the stock are up money and they're happy, and potentially we're looking to buy breakouts and buy pullbacks and do bullish type things. If we're below this line for any significant time, then it's probably looking to do bearish type things. So we're below this line right here. When we came back up, tested it, you got another quick sell there, and then when we finally broke that, you had a pullback plays, bullish action to play as well. Very interesting, and I don't think at all coincidental that when we came back down to that 104 area, we just dropped sideways for a couple weeks, and now it looks like we're potentially breaking out. So range bound, meaning that you have this high of 1 and low of 80, and you're stuck within this range. But the fact that it's holding the average price of the company from when the company was announced, that's perfect. That's what we want to see. So if I were to trade this thing, you could buy this little breakout, your stop could go 99, and then your risk is very small. If it ends up getting back to prior highs, that becomes a pretty good multiple of your risk. So price right there, stop loss in this area, and then if it gets the highs, it's like a 2 to 3 times your risk. Those are, you think about it, if you're going to make 2.5 to 3 times your risk, you just have to do the math in your head and say, what's the probability that I think that will happen? If the probability is at all good, like above 30%, you should take the trade. That's how us quants generally think about things, is what am I going to make when I'm right? What am I going to lose when I'm wrong? What's the probability of those two things happening? Of course, you never know for sure. You guess. You guess the best you can. That's why quants like me will do a lot of things when it comes to testing things kind of a little seriously, like doing tests of back tests, right? Running data, simulations, machine learning, that kind of thing, to try to get that probability, and then from there we go through and figure that out. IONQ, the IONQ, the quantum stuff. Quantity names look really good. This is as kind of cup and handle as you potentially get right here. If you kind of draw this in, right, where you've got your big cup, and I think these are overall good proxy for just market behavior in general, as opposed to looking at them really because of any particular reason in the name. If you have something like quantum computers, which even the guys who are hardcore, that this is not only going to be this is going to change the world and right, all the things they believe, they will still tell you this is very speculative right now. There's no such thing as a quantum computer that does any purpose that we need it to do. These are all speculative bets on the future, which is not a bad thing, right? But what it does, it shows you as IONQ is breaking out here, as it's put in this very nice kind of cup and handle pattern, and looks like it potentially could take a shot at highs here of $55. That shows animal spirits, if you want to call it, risk on behavior, whatever term you want to use. You're seeing that in quantum computers, right? If it's like I always make the joke with Fartcoin. If everyone's worried that the market's coming to an end, you're not going to see the Fartcoin chart looking this nice and looking like it's about to break out to like $4. You're just not. And same with quantum computers, right? You could use Rigetti, you could use QBTS, you could use whatever. IONQ is the kind of the biggest one, the most established name in this sector. And it, in my opinion, wouldn't look like this if people are scared about the market as a whole. So a very speculative name, really nice looking chart. I'm actually adding this one to my list here because it just does look so nice. I love these cup and handle plays. So just to describe them, I guess. So cup and handle, I'm not one that I think there's any magic in, a technical pattern, as described, that there's not like a bat pattern or anything like that. It's important to break down technical analysis and say, oh, well, what does this actually mean to me? What does this make sense to mean? And it just means that, hey, IONQ was in a downtrend, then it stopped being in a downtrend, and then started to grind a little bit higher, and now you just have this flag going on here. So this downtrend is over, and now it's back into an uptrend, and it's just flagging out here. That's the idea behind it. Again, don't get too crazy with it. And if it does that, that'll be an all-time high. Yeah, that would break all-time highs, which you can't be bearish, I don't think, when something's making a high that has never made before. MRNA. Was looking at this earlier. This one is just, this is a dog, and it has been for a while now. I think we'll zoom out and show. This chart looks the same to me as a lot of these pandemic darlings that got hit. From $12 to $500 back to $27. Not a deal, right? Big round trip. Basically, if you look at Zoom, CM, same look, right? Around the same time frame. If you look at Peloton, same look around the same time frame. These are pandemic plays that once the pandemic ended, they got taken out to the woodshed. However, if you go down to the daily chart, is at least stopped going down this whole time, pretty much. It's been going down, except a little bit of a sustained bounce here. But this whole time it's been going down, and it stopped that in April, end of March. So it stopped going down for a couple weeks. It's like the old saying, if you want to get out of a hole, the first thing you need to do is stop digging. I like that when at least they have paused for a period of time. They've stopped going down. There's nothing they're doing that's super interesting anymore. They've just stopped and consolidated. Now we need to see it start to break out of this base, and this base around $29. If it can break and hold this, maybe that's the start of a potential uptrend here. I would never buy something like this expecting to get all the way back to highs at $500. That's probably out of the picture for at least a period of time. However, if it can break here and it could get to $50, that's 50% gain. I don't think there's anyone in the world who would squawk too hard at a 50% gain. I don't think that would be anything that would make any sense at all. So it's certainly a nice look there. So nice look, potential, nice breakout. You know where you're wrong if you get under this $23, but just know there's so many bag holders all the way up that I talk about this stuff all the time with like AMC. That if AMC ever gets going again, you gotta remember a few people who thought this was goodbye at 300, and then right 200, 100, and they did that weird reverse ape spin-off thing, and then they bought that back in, and then right. So every time this thing spikes, you see it spikes to a lower price. Because there's so many people bag holding. So imagine you're in from $25, and the thing ever spikes like $15 or $20. You're probably going, okay, let me, I've been holding this now for years, for 5 years, time to get out. So that's the thing, that the reason I like buying stocks in solid uptrends as opposed to stocks that are bottoming out and moving higher, is just you have so many people who are bag holding that on every rally they're potentially looking to sell. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have some sort of game plan on what you're going to need to see in order to stick with it. Ideally, with something like this, you want some type of news catalyst to go with it, a new drug, a new something, not just another COVID vaccine or something that they already do, but something new that could potentially change this trend into potentially longer trade. HNST. The honest company. Huh, that kind of scares me in and of itself. If you have to say you're an honest company, that's kind of scary to me. Let me just draw out some VWAPs here, see what we're looking at. Yeah, this is one that looked like it was on the verge of bankruptcy and has been slowly trending up ever since. That could put in kind of that rounded bottom type look. It's what you want to see from companies if they're struggling like this, is to start to trend higher. And it's funny, if you note all the red arrows down here before, this was every time they missed earnings, and then all the green arrows right here, this is all the time that they beat earnings. So now that they're beating earnings time after time, the thing is grinding higher. That's a good thing. Right? So they're making money now, roughly. Yes, kind of. Slowly, yeah, they've turned profitable. So that seems to be a big thing. This is the anchor VWAP from the low. So the average price of the average market participant from the low. You can see how we're using this to bounce somewhat, not always, not perfectly, but we're bouncing up higher here. So I would just simply look at a trend line or something to this. A simple trend line approach, I think, is a good way to do it, to get out the question in your brain. And if we're breaking above this trend line, I kind of like the look of it. My stop loss goes under this 430 area, because if it sells all the way back down and breaks that zone, you're probably wrong or early. Get out. Maybe you can get back in if it reverts here higher. Is it going to get back to $25? I don't know. That'd be a 5x, which would be pretty crazy. But as long as this trend is reversing, maybe it'll grind its way back up to $8 or so. Reddit is just on fire today. This thing's just been a dynamo. You can see I already drew out, because I was looking at this earlier today. This 155 area is everything for Reddit. It's the lows way back here, and now that's acting as highs right here. You have to clear this, and I think you have to clear it pretty soon and pretty decisively, because if someone was buying the dip, they probably bought it at 150. They had to sit all the way through a pullback of losing half their money, and now they're back to even. All right, that's one of those things where you look at it and you say, okay, this band that I've drawn is probably where a lot of people are hanging out, and they are struggling because they were in at 150 and it dumped all the way back down. Now it's all the way back up. So if it can get through that zone, those people will probably feel better, right? Their position has turned green. If we start to pull off this level, you got to think about, imagine it was you bought $100,000 worth of Reddit at 155, and it got cut in half. So at some point, that account, that bit of your account, was only worth 50 grand as opposed to the 100 grand you put in, and now you're looking at it, and it's back to 100 grand. If it starts to really go, if over the next couple of days you're looking at it and that's 105, 110, 120, okay, maybe I'll give it a chance here. But if you start to see that 100,000 turn back into 90, turn back into 80, which would just mean us, pulling back here a little bit like this, as it starts to pull back, I think you'll get a lot of these people go, no, I'm not doing that again. That wasn't fun. Right? And this is a lot of, this is what I try to do with my systems. I try to look at the psychology of the market, and I try to systematize it. Right? This is where people are trapped. This is where market participants are. Try to get into their head and see what potentially they could be thinking, and then look to take trades in that direction where people are trapped. We talked about at the top of the hour how most people are short the S&P 500. We're hitting new all-time highs. It's very easy to put yourself in those kind of shoes and say, hey, I need, right? There needs to be some movement higher or lower in order to save these people. But if there is, then they're probably covering. So that's what we got to look at there with that one. Edit MVST, EVST, no, MVST. Well, this one you see I tried to this earlier or later back here. That would be interesting to see. I do hear there are some sound things. Let me try something quickly. I don't know if it's on my end, but I'm going to just unplug my mic and plug it back in. We'll see what happens. What about this now? Did that fix it? I'm just going to use my built-in MacBook One. Let's see. No. That doesn't work either. I am not. It's something. That's better? Okay. Well, I hear it in my own ears. I know it's not ideal, but we'll go with it for now. Just to round out the next half hour, and I'm sure they will have it fixed in the next time. Okay, perfect. So we're looking at this MVST, and we'll take a look at this MVST. You can see it had this nice bull flag here, and that bull flag existed at these prior highs, which I think is important to note. Right? It didn't happen anywhere. It didn't happen randomly. It happened at these prior highs, and holding at those prior highs. That's an interesting place to potentially put those. Have that kind of flag, so that kind of creates again that cup and handle style pattern, We've broken through that, and now we're just consolidating. I don't really see anything in this chart right now. It's just kind of range bound. But if it can get above these highs, which are around 490 or so, we can go from there. We'll see what happens with that. Just playing around a little bit here too. Yeah, it's picking up the sound through the AirPods. I don't know. It's picking up my wrong microphone, and it's echoing. So I don't know why, but we'll tough it out. We'll get through it. MSTR. Well, MSTR is probably better always just to look at Bitcoin as a whole instead of MSTR. MSTR is having a great day today. Nice push up. It's exactly what you want to see. However, it would be nice to have Bitcoin participate, and currently we're not really seeing that. Right? You can see what I've drawn out here in Bitcoin. We broke these prior highs right here, and then we've just been consolidating ever since. So ideally, we get some sort of resolution higher here in Bitcoin, because MSTR, that's all they do, right? It's the only thing they do is Bitcoin. So if that's going to be the case, then we're just going to wait until Bitcoin moves. Nice looking little, you can see I drew this little wedge it's broken out of. That looks great. The fact that it's near highs, that looks great as well. But we just need to see something to say, okay, yes, we are now, Bitcoin is going to move, which is all we do with MicroStrategy. So we need Bitcoin to move in order for the underlying names to move as well. But we're not really seeing that right now. So we do need to see that breakout in crypto in order to have the guy who all he does is buy crypto all day. I don't know what else he does for a job, to have that move as well. UPST start. I haven't heard about this guy in a while. That's probably why, right? I look at a chart like this and I say you're just range bound. There's nothing compelling in this particular name that would get me very excited to potentially take a move one way or another. I want to see ranges expand. I want to see areas that everyone is looking at break. I want to see, good, healthy things like that. To get that break, to get that move, I think that's exactly what we kind of want to see, but we need to get some sort of range break. So when I look at this and I say, well, you got these highs up here, it's bounced off now 1, 2, 3, 4 times in say the 70s to the 90s. You've got lows in the 30s and you're at the 60s. You're pretty much right in the middle of those ranges. So yes, a nice little gap up, and then consolidation. It looks like that gap could continue higher for a shorter term trade. But in the longer term, you've got this resistance up ahead. So unlike a lot of these names that have been recovering, this one really hasn't, All right, so that's Upstart. NFE. I saw someone say hi, hello. Apologize for the audio issues. We'll get those sorted, I'm sure. New Forest Energy. This is a pretty bad one that may be recovering now, just a little bit. So we've had this push down, and that push down may be recovering here just a bit. But like I talked about with AMC, like I talked about with GME, like I talked about with all of these names, it's important to note that you have all of these bag holders, right? You have some people who have held this name since 70 and 30 and 20 and 10 and 5, and all of those names, or all those prices, they're struggling, and they're struggling hard. right? So as you bounce, you're going to have all of those people looking to sell. So I look at names that are down this much so aggressively, like reverse short squeezes, for lack of a better term. You would hope and you would expect some sort of maybe fill the gap. Again, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, the stocks need to fill the gap. I haven't actually had that come true. I haven't seen any data. And as a quant, I'm very much, unless you can prove it to me, I'm not interested in it kind of thing. So I need to see that happen, which I'm not. So if it got through this part of the gap, which is 425, and you're one of those people who believe that gaps fill, even though, again, I haven't seen the evidence that that happens, then great, right? Maybe you will get a push from there, but I wouldn't expect much more than that, just because whatever happened, unless they've done something that's completely going to change the fact that they hemorrhage money, then it's really what's going to save them in the long run. It's New Forest Energy, so it's a natural gas distributor that's losing money. What are they going to do to save them, right? I don't know. UNH and the fraud probe. Well, the fraud probe is already obviously priced in. That's when it shot to 240. So the question when you see bad news like that isn't, is the bad news going to affect anything? It's more about, is it priced in, right? So if, for example, there was a big fraud report and the stock didn't move down very much, I'd be more worried. But the fact that this $600 company got cut more than in half, that shows me that it's already priced in. So the question is, are they going to get through the fraud stuff, or are they going to just exist in the fraud stuff? If they get through it, then this is probably a $300, $400 or $400 stock again. If there's more allegations and more fraud or whatever that comes out, they're going to end up retesting the lows. But you can see that UNH has done nothing now for weeks. And that's because everyone's just kind of waiting and saying, okay, well, are they going to be able to get through the fraud thing? If so, then let's buy it. And if not, but because I don't think even any actual litigation has actually started yet, we're kind of in no man's land, middle ground, waiting for something to occur, which, it could. But until then, I don't know. I don't think that you're going to have any huge institutions buying ahead of a fraud trial. And I don't think you're going to have a lot of any huge institutions shorting in front of a fraud trial. So it's one of those binary event stocks where when there is a binary event that solves it, then that's great. You'll end up getting that type of resolution, that type of move. Until then, you wait. Right? You do a lot of waiting. ATEN. ATEN networks. It's a good looking chart, right? It's up near highs. You're buying stuff that's up near highs instead of down near lows. So that's automatically a good thing. It's automatically putting stuff in your favor. It's a nice gap and break of this resistance zone. You're seeing that happen, right? So we had a big gap and now we're holding above this big resistance zone here. And if you zoom out, there's an even bigger resistance zone between kind of 19 and 21. Is that all-time highs? Yes. anytime you are flirting with all-time highs, that's something that's interesting to me, right? I can show you guys studies, a hand over fist studies that just say, hey, if you buy things that are at prior resistance or at all-time highs, you do way better than if you buy things that are at all-time lows. And I know it gets unusual to do, but it's like hard kind of mentally for us to do it. However, it's the ticket, right? It's what we want to do. We want to buy things that are moving up. We don't want to buy things that are moving down. So this is moving up. So this is exactly what we want to see happen, right? Now, in the long run, it has to get closer to, and in my opinion, through these prior resistance here at 21.22. It could certainly do that. That's not like a really big ask by any means. Right? It's not like you were asking it to double, but I think it should do that, and I think it should do that relatively quickly. I don't want to see it meander here for too much longer, because it will just allow people to potentially short in front of the news that we're seeing here, or the move that we're seeing. So we have these prior highs. I just look at this as a band, call it like 20 to 22. Through that, great. Under that, time to go, or time to wait. The way I look at it anyway, I wouldn't be buying here with this very major and important high right above us. For sure, I wouldn't. Yeah, I just checked on the sound again. It's still wonky. That's okay. We'll keep going. Again, make sure you guys ask your questions. We've got another 15 minutes. I am sure what will happen with the sound is that they'll get that fixed for the next time for sure. CAVA is moving today. So we talked about this on, I forget, one of these earlier that was a newer IPO, and I talked about you take an anchored VWAP, you slap it on that IPO. That gives you a good understanding of potentially what you're looking to have accomplished, what you're looking to see. The idea, for those who miss it, is that this purple line now represents the average price of the average market participant throughout the birth of the stock. So if you were dollar cost averaging into CAVA, your price is roughly, call it $85, give or take. So the reason that we look at that, and the reason that that's so important, is because it's a really good vibe check. If the average person, if most people in the company or who are invested are making money, that's going to be somewhat a little bit bullish. If they're losing money, that they're not going to feel as good about the stock. So just like we talked about with AMC at lows and all these companies doing horribly, is what are people feeling like, right? What are people trying to accomplish? Are they AMC? Are they trying to, what I mean by trying to accomplish is they're just looking to get out and save themselves. In something like NVIDIA, they're looking to make as much money as possible. And those things are just different ways that people will act, right? They'll dump things entirely, and they'll dump things very quickly if they are just trying to survive, which is what happens when stocks are trading at lows. They will do fine if they're not, right? If things are not looking to, if they're not in that zone, if they're not struggling with that problem. So we have CAVA, which you can see when it broke this area right here, it immediately started to ramp up. And then when we got back through it to the downside, right, this is where the consolidation hit. So to summarize, I would be really interested in CAVA kind of around this particular level. So that's what I'm looking for here on CAVA, is that can we get through? It's a nice day today. There must have been some positive news. No, nothing that I see. That's pretty crazy. But if it can get through and it can hang out through this level, that's what is interesting to me. I want to see us get and hold through that zone, and hold pretty nicely at that area. Through there, I think you could do another trend line, simple trend line. These things aren't magic, but they just give you a little bit of a easy way to go about the trade. Right? You connect that high and that high there, and you say, if we can break through that trend line to the upside, maybe that will be the trade that I can take. If we fail from there, maybe that's something we got to look at to the other side. So, all right, guys, we still have a little bit of time for questions. I think I'm through every ticker. If I miss a ticker, let me know. Again, I know about the sound issues, and I apologize for them, but I just want to summarize quickly while we're looking for what we've seen in the market today. Because we made all-time highs on Friday, we gapped up again today. That's what else do you want to see, right? Is a continuation from all-time highs. And then this bullish action so far, to me, is super interesting, because we gapped up. We tried very hard to come back into the gap, and they just couldn't push it down, right? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts to push that lower, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't get us to bring lower. And now it looks like we're grinding higher. So if we can get up to and through pre-market highs and actually turn this, I'll do candles here, turn this candle green from red, I don't know. To me, that's pretty interesting. That's something that I think that people will like the look of, in which it's like, okay, they tried this. This was a full red candle at some point today. They tried to push it lower. They failed miserably to push us lower, and now they're grinding higher. That just shows that we continue to have, on every dip, buyers come in. And an overwhelming demand for buyers. What can you expect? We're also seeing all of this happen across the board. It's not just the SPY that's up 0.3%. The Qs are up 0.5%. This thing broke all-time highs a couple days back. Well, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then gapped up today. If we look at these, eventually, right, lower high, like this is just kind of a straight up line. Eventually, you need to have something happen here, right? You need to have some kind of occurrence that, hey, we need some sort of pullback, right? At some point, a candle's low will break the low of the candle before, but this feels very, very buy programming to me. Just looking at some individual sectors of what could be going on, what could be kind of leading. At WGMI, we have up 6%, which is really weird to me, right? We have Bitcoin miners moving really well. And then if we take, for example, like a Mara, that's kind of barely up, a Riot, and more importantly, let's look at Bitcoin. Hasn't really move. We're just kind of sitting here, not doing anything on Bitcoin. Solana, I know, had a little bit of a move earlier today. It gave most of that back after breaking out of this downtrend channel. I want to see it start to grind its way up now that it's broken that channel, that support. If it can get up to kind of the 250s, great. But the fact that we're seeing WGMI, which is the crypto miners ETF, doing well, in where crypto isn't, I don't know. That's something that I definitely think we have to focus on, right? If we look at things like Block, not the company, but the ETF, this is data transmission and sharing ETF that's doing well. Not quite all-time highs, but getting very, very close. ARK is doing great today. We talked about this before with the quantum computers and more heavily speculative assets. That what we're looking for is we're looking at these things as risk on, risk off indicators. If ARK isn't going to move higher, then it means that the market's really not feeling super like juiced up risk on. But the fact that you're getting ARK breaking out here finally, into the 70s, was in the 20s at some point. Maybe it's going to make its way back up. Maybe. That would be really interesting if that was the case, but if we get that break from there, that's great. XME, metals and miners, getting very close here to potentially up through highs. HAC is an ETF that I'm, full disclosure, I'm invested a lot in. I really like this one. As you had a break to all-time highs, some sideways consolidation, and then some nice continuation into highs. And again, that's what you want to see, especially because I consider this and defense really closely linked. And we know that the current administration has plans to invest heavily into defense. If that's going to continue, and that's something that's going to be an investment in the government going forward, you would imagine part of that becomes cybersecurity, right? All defense now, all defense spending seems to be related to, in some sort of way, cybersecurity, in which you have, you know, everything is, it's not the amount of dudes you have with guns, right? It's the amount of drones and everything that you have, and how can you hack them, or can your enemy hack them, or what does that look like? So hack, I kind of put in the same group now as defense, right? Cybersecurity and defense, I think, for the foreseeable future will likely go hand in hand here. A couple other ones that are interesting is IAI. So this is brokers and security dealers. So these are the bookies. When the market's going crazy, the way it was here, it makes sense to bet on the bookies, right? So CME, ICE, right? ICE to new all-time highs. That's the Intercontinental Exchange. Then, you know, some of the brokers, we talk about Hood, but what about things like IBKR, right? Not nearly as crazy, you know, high flyer nutsness, but big broker, who I use, Interactive Brokers, so looking good there. Schwab got bought in, but you can do some of the banks like TD. This has been just a crazy one. RBC. I don't have that one, but right, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. A lot of these banks are looking amazing. Not only hitting all-time highs, but hitting all-time highs much faster and better than a lot of their counterparts are. So again, you want to go, in my opinion, when we're breaking new all-time highs, you want to go where that strength is. And that strength is in XLI, which is our industrial sector, and it's in XLF, which is financials. So we're seeing financials, we're seeing industrials. We are also seeing tech with XLY, XLK. Right, tech is hitting new all-time highs. And it's funny, if you look at it, this heat map shows the Russell 3000. Now, each of these boxes are a different sector, and how big the box is shows you the importance it has to that particular sector. And let's look at what the biggest ones are. Right, technology, service, electronic technology, so you can lump both those in as tech. Then we have finance, and then a little bit of retail. So, right, find these financials up big today because there was some sort of weird stress test news is great. It just shows that we need financials to move higher in order to be a kind of a healthy economy and a healthy market, because people need to borrow, people need to lend. Those are hugely important things for the overall market. So again, we just got a few minutes left here, so I'll leave it open to some questions while we continue to look at some different sectors, maybe some different names that come interesting. You know, some of the stuff that I've been trading and posting about. I just put a video of this SERA. You can see this purple line. This is one of the systems I have that looks for strong stocks that are pulling back now. So I got involved in some of this one just a second ago. It was when I was on this stream. I just saw the position enter my blotter there. Again, I use robots to trade. And we have a nice look here on this SERA. A couple other ones. This OWLT, I've been buying from this zone right here, this kind of 550, as it finally broke this area. I've been following this company for a while. I spent a bunch of money on them with my 2 kids, and you can see from $5 it's been breaking out quite nicely. FTEK was another one that I talked about earlier that I've been getting involved in around this zone right here, and then a little bit more in here. Just as it's breaking through this anchored view up from this major high, this is a system I have here, looking to see if it resumes this uptrend into maybe the 8s or 9s. And then also MindMed, I've got a pretty big position on here in the psychedelic space. I really do think the psychedelic space is going to heat up soon. Just glad I didn't do that. What was it? CMPS. That was down 50%. So I'm picking MindMed because it's got a whole lot of cash. ARM, take a look here at ARM. It's a nice look, but it's just I worry about something that has just made this move. So it's just doubled off its lows, and then it's just consolidating sideways here the entire time, right? It's up, falls down, it's up. So this 170 to 180 area is a big level of resistance. You can buy it, making the bet that it's going to go through. For me, I just look at that and say, well, if I was owning this thing anywhere near the $100 area, anywhere near $100 area, and it was up at 160, 170, I'd be probably selling some, and that could create some overhead supply here. Big move, and we're kind of seeing the same thing a little bit with the semiconductors as a whole. Right, they're through a lot of this area, but they still have these prior all-time highs. The fact that semiconductors were actually lagging to hit all-time highs is very interesting to me, but I would want to see this to break out. And then, of course, we're being led by the king, who's NVIDIA. AMD has actually been moving a little bit as well. So then ARM, yes, could very much catch up and break out here, but it's just one of those, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go with the master. So kind of just to sum things up is, yes, new all-time highs are great. It's exactly what we want to see. Holding those new all-time highs, again, is exactly what we want to see. However, we are a little bit overextended here. And if you go back through history, which I think is a really quick exercise you guys can do that's really important, is look at every time there's been a bear market recently and we've hit all-time highs. There's been a lot of them. It's been 2022, 2020, 2019, 2016. You can go back. There's been tons and tons of bear markets. And just look at what happened after they hit new all-time highs. Now, if you're too lazy to do that, I'll just spoil it a bit. Just say it's usually pretty choppy. It's not very clean. And I think it's because the more watched a level is, the less it's going to actually matter what happens, right? The more it's just going to consolidate sideways. So you want to see these levels break. You want to see these levels hold. And again, thank you all for coming in. Apologize for the weird sound issues. I'm sure we'll get it squared away for next week. And until then, I will talk to you guys soon.